It's just another Tuesday afternoon. The world is moving, breathing, and living in total ignorance. But in a single heartbeat, the fundamental laws of our existence are about to glitch. The first sign of the collapse isn't a bang. It's a terrifying, hollow silence. Birds don't just stop singing. Their lungs fail instantly, and they drop from the sky like lifeless stones. On the highways, millions of internal combustion engines die in unison. Without oxygen to spark the fuel, every car, truck, and bus becomes a multi-ton piece of dead metal, coasting into chaos. But the real horror is structural. Oxygen is the invisible glue that binds all concrete structures together. Without it, the very foundations of our civilization start to disintegrate into fine, gray sand. Steel bridges snap as their structures fail. In the skies, commercial jets become silent gliders, losing altitude at a terrifying rate. There is no explosion, no fire, just the sound of whistling wind and the approach of the ground. With no engines to keep them up, they begin a steep, terrifying descent toward a world they no longer recognize. Then, the light itself changes. The sky doesn't turn red or orange. It vanishes into a pitch-black void. Without oxygen to scatter the sunlight, the stars emerge in the middle of a midday nightmare. You feel it in your head first, a sudden violent drop in air pressure. It feels as if your eardrums are being ripped out from the inside, a silent scream echoing in a world that has lost its breath. The oceans begin to react to the vacuum. The water surface doesn't heat up, but it starts to boil violently as it turns into a thick, suffocating mist, rising up to meet the darkened sky. Inside every factory and every power plant, the gears of progress grind to a permanent, agonizing halt. The pulse of the modern world flatlines in less than 3 seconds. Times Square, once the loudest place on Earth, is now a graveyard of abandoned technology. The only sound left is the whistling of the wind moving through the ruins of our skyscrapers. On a molecular level, something impossible is happening. Without a layer of oxidation to keep them apart, bare metals touch and instantly fuse together. Every machine on Earth is now welded shut, forever. Above us, the orbital graveyard begins to fall. Satellites tumble out of the void, igniting into streaks of fire as they strike the thin, oxygen-deprived remnants of our atmosphere. Without the ozone layer to protect us, the sun becomes a silent, invisible executioner. Raw UV radiation pours down, scorching the earth and withering every green leaf in a matter of seconds. 5 seconds. That is all it took to bring humanity to its knees. The oxygen returns with a deafening atmospheric slam, but the world it finds is broken. We are far more fragile than we ever dared to imagine. But the glitch goes much deeper than the surface, down into the crushing darkness of our planet's interior. Far beneath our feet, the Earth's molten core relies on a delicate balance of chemical stability. For 5 violent seconds, that balance is shattered. As the internal pressure shifts, the very engine of our world begins to falter. The massive magnetic shield, our only protection from the sun's lethal cosmic radiation, starts to flicker and fade. Like a dying light bulb in a vast cold cellar, the barrier between us and the vacuum of space is about to go out. While the world above crumbles, a silent and invisible crisis unfolds inside your own body. Your red blood cells, those tiny, tireless carriers of life, suddenly find themselves empty. Within heartbeats, the chemical bond of hemoglobin fails entirely. Your blood begins to darken, losing its vibrant red as it loses its purpose. It turns into a cold, stagnant river, struggling to find the energy to reach your brain or keep your heart beating. In this airless void, your own biology becomes a ticking clock, counting down the final seconds of your existence. We often think of the atmosphere as a thin, harmless gas, but it is actually a heavy, protective blanket that keeps us alive. Without oxygen, that blanket is violently ripped away from the planet. The temperature doesn't just drop, it plunges into a sub-zero nightmare in a matter of seconds. Global weather patterns, once predictable and stable, shatter instantly. Above the oceans, massive superstorms begin to form, chaotic monsters of wind and ice that will haunt our coastlines, long after the air returns to the lungs of the survivors. This is the birth of the instant weld, a molecular nightmare that defies every law of engineering. Every car on the highway, every jet on the tarmac, and every factory assembly line on the planet is now a single, solid block of fused metal. The complex machinery of our modern civilization hasn't just stopped moving. It has physically merged at the atomic level. Even if the air returns, even if we survive the freeze, the world as we once knew it is permanently locked. The keys to our future have been welded shut, in a silent metallic tomb. Then, just as suddenly as it left, the oxygen returns. But it doesn't return quietly. It hits the planet with a deafening atmospheric slam, a shockwave of air rushing back into the vacuum we created. In a fraction of a second, the sky ignites back into a brilliant, deceptive blue. The pressure returns with the force of 1,000 explosions, shattering windows and collapsing lungs that were never meant to endure such a violent rebirth. The air is back, but the silence is gone. As the dust settles, we look out at a world that is fundamentally broken. Our highways are no longer roads. They are metallic graveyards of fused steel and glass. Every engine is a paperweight. Every factory is a monument to a lost era. We are surrounded by the skeletons of our own technology, welded into permanent stillness. The air is breathable again, but the tools we use to build our world have been taken from us forever. We are standing in the ruins of the 21st century life, and its stubborn brilliance begins to claw its way back. The scorched forests shiver as the first winds return, and the microscopic repair of our DNA begins. But the scars remain. The 5-second glitch has rewritten the genetic code of our planet. We have survived, but we are no longer the masters of a predictable world. We are guests, living on a planet that reminded us, in the most brutal way possible, that our existence is a privilege, not a right. When we look up at the stars tonight, the sky will look the same, but we will know the truth. We live on a fragile blue marble, floating in a vast and different ocean of darkness. At astroscale, we measure the universe not just in light years, but in the terrifying fragility of a single breath. 5 seconds was all it took to change everything. Yet what would happen if the glitch lasted for 10? Sleep well, and remember to breathe. Until next time.